Hi there. You're looking pretty nice. Thought I would, Hannah's asleep upstairs. Um, I thought I would take this time while I'm waiting for her to get up so we can eat, because we're having the same thing tonight. I'm fucking starving. I'm fucking starving. I haven't eaten a thing, like, since yesterday. Um, 6 o'clock tonight. I thought I would take this moment to discuss the next 6 perfect films. And one of these actually should have gone on the first list. Now, if you haven't been paying attention, I've done 2 of these so far. 2 lists of 6 perfect films. And one of these definitely should have gone on the first list. I'm thinking maybe, I don't know, maybe second place. But it's too late for that now, and it's too late to even shove it onto the second list unless I want to redo all these videos, and I don't. So we'll just have to make it number 1 of this set of 6. And here we go. So I don't have any honorable mentions planned. Although maybe I'll come up with one. Maybe I'll come up with one before the video's over. So first off, number 6, we have The Invitation. The Invitation is a 2015, I think, movie. I think it came out in 2015. Maybe 16. Maybe. 2015, pretty sure. It's a movie. This couple goes to a house in the Hollywood Hills for a party of sorts, a dinner party at the guy's ex-wife's house, and she's remarried to some douchebag ex-cokehead who they went to a seminar of sorts in Mexico to help grieve with some kind of loss. The woman is grieving the loss of the child that she has with the guy that's visiting with his girlfriend, and her husband is grieving some other. I don't think they mention what happened to him. Everybody at this party is grieving in some way or another some sort of loss. I'm pretty sure. That's why they're all there. But at this seminar that the couple went to, that is hosting the dinner party, it's a cult basically, where people come to deal with loss, grieving, and the whole entire movie you're just guessing. And they do a really good job. Now, it's a slow movie. It's a really slow movie, but you never get bored. It's so intense that you just keep guessing what's going on. What's going to happen here? Is this something bad happening, or is this just a dinner party and the guys just kind of jump into conclusions? We don't know. You never know, and it's so hard to figure out the reality. I mean, you kind of have an idea where it's going to end up, but it's so good. It's so intense. And the whole movie, like I said, it's up and down. Just the guys just guessing. He's accusing people of things and accusing, the hosts of what's happening here. And then they say something that, calms him down or makes him think otherwise. And you just don't ever know until the end, and it really builds up really well. It does a really good job with building the intensity, the tension, and that third act is just it's insane. It's really good. It's called The Invitation. Next on the list is Palmetto. I think maybe I should have made this number 6. I think The Invitation's slightly better. Palmetto is it's a 1998 neo-noir film. It's Woody Harrelson. It opens with him getting out of prison, and it's for something he didn't do. He spent 2 years in prison for something he didn't do, and he gets out, and he's a reporter. And it takes place in the southern swamplands of Florida, I should say, and it does a really good job at making it look like that's a fantastic fucking place to be, by the way. And if you've never been to Florida, it's fucking not. Florida is disgustingly hot and humid, and it's a sweat fuck land, and it's disgusting, and I never want to go back ever. And I probably have a warrant there, I'm pretty sure, for my arrest. I'm not sure about that, but I definitely have a speeding ticket I never paid, so probably have a warrant there. So he's a reporter, and he gets out, and the detectives are like, kind of. I don't know why they're watching him to see if he does anything. They seem to like stick around him, and they ask for his help with this case. What happens is Woody Harrelson is approached by this woman, played by Elizabeth Shue, and asked to assist her in a fake kidnapping of her daughter to get ransom money from her husband, her rich husband. And I'm not going to go into spoilers, but the daughter basically ends up dead, and that's not really a spoiler. And if you watch the movie, you'll see why. Daughter ends up dead, and the detectives are trying to find out what the fuck's happened here. They get the police involved, and the detectives hire Woody Harrelson to help. He's a reporter, and they want his help. He's friends with one of the cops, and he is trying to cover up, what's happened here, and he doesn't know who killed the daughter. He had nothing to do with the murder, but he's trying to cover everything up to avoid, them connecting it back to him while he's trying to help the cops solve the case. And it's a really good movie. It's called Palmetto. Lots of twists, turns, all kinds of crazy stuff happening. Then we have, I'm gonna switch that one. The Last Seduction. Now, if you watched the part 2 of this, I guess we'll call it a series. Maybe I'll make them in a playlist. Maybe I'll put a playlist. If you watch the second video, there was a movie called Red Rock West. It's a Nick Cage movie, and it was written and directed by the Dahl brothers. I forget their names. John and Robert, I think, or Roger, something like that. Definitely John Dahl is the main one, I guess. Well, they made this movie, The Last Seduction, as well, and it's also kind of a neo-noir. It's kind of has that old feeling, but it's not. It's a modern film. It's from the 90s, I think 94, maybe. Yeah, 1994, 95, somewhere around there. And it's about this woman who's married to Bill Pullman, his character, who is a con man, and he comes home with a big bag of money. I think it's like $100,000, maybe, or no, it's more than that. I think it's more than that. It's a lot of money, and she takes off with the money because he hits her, and she doesn't want to be with him anymore. She takes off with the money and runs off to upstate New York. They live in New York City. She takes off to upstate New York, meets up with this guy at a bar, who they kind of get together. She's kind of a bitch, like a snob, kind of a city snob, and he's kind of like, upstate guy, he's small town, but he wants to be a city guy. So they kind of get together, and she's kind of just using him for sex, and you don't know what she's up to. You don't really know what her plan is, and that's kind of the genius of this movie, is how it unfolds to the end. And it's you start to think back once the movie's over. It's like, wow, that's what they were doing all this time. Like, it's a great plan. I mean, if you could actually get away with this, it's a good movie. I won't get into much about the details, because it's really good to not know much. but she has a plan, and this guy just gets taken along for the ride, pretty much. And her husband, meanwhile, is trying to find her. He's trying to locate her. Um, you know, and it's a good movie. It's called The Last Seduction. Now we'll have 500 Days of Summer. Um, 500 Days of Summer is a rom-com kind of movie, but it's a different kind of rom-com. It's not a rom-com, really. And they even say that in the opening of the film, that it's not a love story. It's I think it's something everyone can relate to. At least every guy, I'm pretty sure, has had this happen to him at one time or another, where he's completely gaga over some woman that just doesn't want to be involved with him, or just can't, or for whatever reason, just, it doesn't happen. And it's that kind of movie, basically. It's Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Zooey Deschanel. I think that's how you pronounce her name. Pretty sure. And it skips all over the timeline. It's 500 day. It's a 500-day period, but it skips all over. Like, it starts, day 488 or whatever. Then it goes to day 1, and then it'll skip all over the place. And it kind of contrasts. Like, the scene you see will contrast with the scene after it, and they kind of show, like, after the breakup, before the breakup, how things were kind of similar, but the exact opposite, pretty much. It's a really good movie. 500 Days of Summer. Really good movie. Like, it's great. Next is The Departed, 2006. Ooh. 2006. The Departed. Jack Nicholson, Leonardo DiCaprio, Matt Damon. Everybody's in this movie. Great movie. It's a police movie, police gang movie, in South Boston, and basically, I don't know how to Okay, so Leonardo DiCaprio is a cop, goes undercover working for the mob, for Jack Nicholson's mob, and Matt Damon is a mobster who goes undercover as a cop. He he works for Jack Nicholson, and he goes and joins the police force to kind of be the rat, to kind of tell him what's happening, when it's going to happen, to keep him informed, basically. And during the movie, they're trying to basically find each other. The rat is trying to find the other rat, and they know there's somebody in each, the police force and the mob, working for the other side, and they're trying to find each other, figure out who the other guy is. And it's really good. It's really good. It's called The Departed. I won't get too much into the details. It's really good. And at 1, this is the one that probably should have gone on the first list. Is Midnight in Paris. Midnight in Paris. This is Owen Wilson and Rachel McAdams. Now, it's a Woody Allen movie. He's not in it, but it's his movie. He wrote it and, I believe, directed it. And I'm not a big Woody Allen fan, per se. I like some of his films. I haven't really watched them all. I guess it's not fair for me to say I'm not a fan. I do like some of the movies that I've seen of his. But I'm just not, I don't know. I'm not into older movies. I'm not really into old, like, pre-70s movies. And I think a lot of his films are really old. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know when he started making movies. But I've seen, like, Diane Hall. Annie Hall, sorry. Not Diane Hall. Diane, what's-her-face, plays Annie Hall. I was thinking of her. Diane Keaton. And, I mean, I've seen a few of his films, but, I don't know, this one is really great. It's a perfect movie. The one thing that annoys me about it is the music kind of gets a little overbearing sometimes. The whole French thing. It takes place in Paris. And it's just got this, I mean, it's good music, but it just gets annoying after a while. the whole trumpet thing, I don't know, it just annoys the shit out of me. And the way the movie opens, it's like a very long montage of Paris scenery with this music, and it just keeps going and going and going. I think that's the one drawback of this movie. Other than that, this movie is fucking perfect. And what it's about is Owen Wilson's a writer. He's a screenwriter trying to write a novel. He's in Paris with Rachel McAdams, who he's going to marry. Or is he married to her? No, he's going to marry her. And her parents are there with them. And he's basically he's trying to write a novel, and he wants to be in Paris because it makes him feel like that's where he feels like he belongs. But he wants to be in Paris in the 20s. He likes Paris from the 20s, from the 1920s. So he Rachel McAdams is kind of snobby. She doesn't want to be there. She's like, yeah, I don't want to live here. He wants to live there. She doesn't want to live there. She just wants to go home. And basically, he ends up going for a walk while she goes off with this other guy. I don't know. There's this other guy that they run into, who she knows. She's, I guess, an old friend of his. I can't remember. And he's like this real smart guy. He like thinks he's the smartest guy ever, and he knows everything about Paris, which turns out to not be so true later on. I don't know if the facts are actually accurate, but in the film it turns out to not be so true later on. So she goes off with him, and Owen Wilson's like, I'm gonna take a walk. It's getting late, and he's just decides to go for a walk. And the clock strikes midnight, and this car pulls up. It's an older car, and they're like, "Come on, get in!" Telling him to get in. The people in the car, they're all like drunk and shit, and just like, "Yeah, I don't know." They're saying, I think they say there's like a party or something. Come to the party, And he's like, "Okay." He just gets in the car, and they end up going to a bar, and Ernest Hemingway's there, all his favorite authors, Scott Fitzgerald's there, and it's just all these people from the 20s. The guy who made the Exterminating Angel, I think I mentioned that on my channel at one time, The Exterminating Angel, the movie where the house party that has a dinner party, and nobody can leave the room. Like, nobody can leave the house for whatever reason. Nobody leaves, and they all start going crazy, trying to break the pipes to get water, and just like, it's a great movie. It's another great movie from the 20s. I think it's from the 60s. Sorry. But that guy's there, and and it's funny. There's a scene, Owen Wilson, once he figures out that he's in the 20s. He does end up back in the 20s. They don't have like there's no time travel sequence or anything. He just gets in the car and he's in the 20s, just somehow there. So there's a scene where he mentions to that guy, like, hey, you should make a movie where there's people at a dinner party and no one can leave the house. And the guy's like, but why can't they just leave? It's great. It's great. So he goes and he's trying to get people to read his novel, and he's like, yeah, oh my god, I love your work, I want you to read my novel. And he goes to get it, and then he's back in normal time. And so he's like, well, shit, now, how am I gonna get it? So the next night he takes Rachel McAdams on the walk with him, and he tries to get her to to see this, and she gets sick of waiting for something to happen. He doesn't tell her what's going to happen. She gets sick of waiting. She leaves, and he ends up going back after he realizes the clock has to strike midnight. She's already gone, but then the car shows up, and he gets in and goes back to the 20s again, and he's just hanging out with everybody. It's just great. It's just a great movie. Perfect movie. Midnight in Paris. So that's the next list of 6 movies, and I don't think I have. Okay, honorable mention. A Simple Plan. A Simple Plan. If you've never seen A Simple Plan, it's a 90s movie. It has Bill Paxton and some other guys. It has Billy Bob Thornton, and I forget the other guy's name. Um, uh, they basically they're in the woods and they find a bag full of money in a plane that crashed. It's like a crashed small single engine plane, one of those small planes, and they find a bag full of money in it. I forget, it's like $4 million. And Bill, all this shit starts going wrong. Bill Paxton decides that he's going to hold the money because he's the responsible one, and they're not going to spend any of it until they realize, who it belongs to, or until they, make sure nobody's looking for it. So then the other two start turning against it. Everybody starts turning against each other. Bad things start happening. People end up dead, and it's just a really great movie. Might even, maybe it could have gone on one of these lists, but it's pretty damn good. It's called A Simple Plan. Sorry, Simple Plan. Um, it kind of makes you wonder, like, what would happen if you found a big bag of money? Like, you'd keep it. You would. Nobody would ever just like, oh, I gotta hand it in. No, you just wouldn't. You'd keep it. And what would you do, though? I mean, like, how? Oh, man, that would be the best day. Movies.